Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. I'm Chris Jules Julian, joined today by my co-hosts Liz Barker and Lucas Hislam. Chicken can't be with us today, but that's all right. I'm sure that he's got his reasons. So, before we go into it, just a few housekeeping rules. So, you cannot change anything unless you're willing to understand it, and you cannot understand it unless you're willing to explore it. A good debate doesn't get ugly. We may talk of things that make people feel vulnerable. Beliefs held sacred may be challenged because of life experiences. We're not trying to make people wrong or incite riot, but simply explore. Welcome to Elite Thinking Club. Okay. Today, guys, I want to talk about phobias. Do any of you have phobias?
I wouldn't say that I have an exact phobia, but there's things that I wouldn't fear, but I'm scared about. Like
Yeah?
um I'm not a massive fan of heights. Uh
Nah.
Quite basic. But when I was younger I used to be petrified of the dark. Like I used to sleep with lights on and everything. But now I've sort of just grown out of it and I'm all right now.
Yeah, it's funny. You know what? I was afraid of the dark for a long time. Long time. I had to have a nightlight when I was going to sleep. It was like a comfort, but I'm not sure why. And actually, I have a theory now. It's just come to my mind. Is it because when we're younger, we're more sensitive to, the next realms or extraterrestrial or ghosts or whatever people call it? Do you know what I mean? Like, where we're so open-minded. We haven't got the limiting beliefs yet. So the possibility of, we're vulnerable as young people when we're sleeping, you know? Spirits are able to, connect with us and contact us easier. Who knows? Because, the power of the mind can be suppressed by society, the norm, the lifestyle, the culture. We can almost teach people that they are only this. You can convince people back to our ruling elite episodes and conspiracy episodes where people are fed stigma and dogma to control them. Back to that episode with Callum that said, when did we just accept this is the norm? If you're born without being tarnished, without being fed limiting beliefs, you've got potential beyond measure. You've got the capacity to absorb anything. But as you go on in life and people, subconsciously or subliminally plant seeds of disbelief or, restrictions, maybe that's why as adults we get shut off to this, like ghosts aren't real. We all know ghosts aren't real. And it's like, but because if you truly believe that, then you're never going to be open to see them. You could have a ghost literally sitting next to you at a bus stop and having a conversation with you. Because you don't believe in ghosts, you wouldn't even think that's a ghost.
Yeah, I was talking to my mum about ghosts the other day and she said that if you believe in it, you'll be able to see it. But if you don't, then you will never be able to see it. And I think there was a film similar to that where I think it's like a Christmas film. I can't remember what it's called. But if you believe in Santa, then he'll come. But if you don't, then he won't. And I'm sure parents obviously say that to their kids as well. But it's sort of you have to believe in it to for the possibility to experience it.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's, you know what? I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes, right? I used to be a heavy smoker, and everyone in my circle were smokers. Okay, now I don't smoke, and I haven't for years, and I rarely meet or even know any smokers now. And I'm just saying this in reference to when the mind wants to see something, it will. And when it no longer associates itself or wants to, it just won't. And I know that sounds really like, oh, how have you gone from phobias to ghosts to Christmas to smoking? And well, that's the beauty of the Elite Thinking Club. We do just evolve the conversation. However, it's all relative. There is, yeah, this thing about limiting beliefs or choice, maybe. But let's go
I
right.
think
Sorry.
going back to you, Lucas, when you said that when you were younger you were really afraid of the dark. I think as well we do like become conditioned, and sometimes like for children, I think as well, like we'll watch a film and in that film there'll be something that happens in the dark, so then you associate that fear of the dark with that bad thing happening, and it's planted in your brain, and then the phobia is there, you're like, "Oh, I can't have it dark in my room because that bad thing's going to happen to me." So I sometimes think that phobias, well, um, they are like a fear in our mind. They are something that has kind of been planted, because a lot of people who have really like really bad fear of like swimming because they believe they're going to get eaten by a shark, even if it's like a beach in England where there aren't any sharks, they'll get hypnotized. Or people who have phobias of heights and they really want, or a phobia of flying, and they really want to go and visit a family member in Australia, they'll get hypnotized. And I've watched a lot of things where people have been hypnotized, and I find it really interesting because the hypnosis kind of digs deep into their brain and gets rid of that conditioning, and that's it. They can get on a plane, they can go in the sea. That phobia is kind of
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, yeah. I literally watched the film last night, yeah. X-Men, The Rise of the Phoenix, or I think that's what it's called. The one with Jean Grey when she's younger and
Hmm.
absorbs this like power from space. And one of the things that was I suppose like one of my favorite bits was when Professor X explains how he helped her and or what he thinks was the best thing to do at the time. So instead of trying to get someone to break down the core of trauma, instead he just put barriers in place so that her mind could never see it again. And then what
Wow.
happened? Then what happened though is she went back to her childhood home and saw her dad hadn't died, and it all came flooding back, because she absorbed
Triggered.
this power. Yeah, it was triggered and it all unleashed. So it might not have been the best method. So maybe there's two types of hypnotists. Some that will, put blockages in place for the mind to never go back and see those fears, and there's those that actually make you face the fears
Mm.
and then overcome it that way, which I think is the best way. It's not the easiest way. Easiest way is just to
Hmm.
put blockades in place, right? Like if you know you
Mm.
want to avoid something, just don't go down there. A bit like me and smoking. I know I don't want to smoke, so I won't
Mm.
go outside to talk with smokers or whatever. Just rather not be there. It's like environment plays a big role, pretty much. If you
Yes.
put yourself in that place, you're gonna do the action in that place.
And I think long term, if you want to get rid, or even just be able to process and deal with the phobia, long term, it would be to face those fears, because then you can keep moving forward, can't you?
Yeah. All right. So yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of these fears that people may have to face to go further in life. And I'm gonna start with one, and I think I'm gonna talk a little bit about it because I've got this theory on it. But it is cynophobia, right?
Hmm.
Cynophobia is the fear of dogs or like canines, fangs, animals that have teeth like that, like canine, basically dogs, right? Wolves, right? And and it's funny. When I was a young boy, I feared dogs. I really was scared of them.
Really?
Let me pause. Apologies, had a technical difficulty there. Microphone just stopped. My fault. Didn't charge it. So back to what I was talking about. Sorry, cynophobia, the fear of dogs. Um, when I was growing up, when I was a young boy, I had a fear of dog. A lady that used to look after me had an Alsatian, and I don't know why. It was the friendliest dog. It just scared the life out of me. I don't know if it was because it was bigger than I was, or because I wasn't raised by dogs. I wasn't aware, like it was just new, and I couldn't get how everyone else didn't have this fear of it. Like I couldn't understand where it came from. You know, I was like, how is this possible? Now I'm not alone on this. A lot of people have a fear of dogs, but I have a theory, and this is my theory. Evolution, as it's took its path, you know, a lot of the time, man's best friend would be used to describe the relationship between humans and dogs. And I think this has been because of our cooperation for survival. In a time when we would not have shelter other than caves, you know, I think wolves took shelter in the caves also. The thing is, we had fire, which obviously heated the cave and gave light, and the wolves would have appreciated the warmth. When the wolves went out to hunt, they brought their kill back to the cave, and they would obviously feast first, and we would then eat the carcasses, the scraps, what was ever left over. And I say we, as in our ancestors from that region of the world. And this bond started to create. The wolves would go out, we would then go with. And they didn't mind, like this level of trust, knowing the wolves weren't going to eat the humans because they had fire. And then we shared the cave, and this, you know, the wolves would protect us from other predators, because obviously they knew without our human, we can't have fire. And the humans would protect the wolves because they knew without the wolves, we're quite shit at hunting, to be fair, in comparison to wolves and protection. So anyway, this bond was made. And, you know, as we evolved and as time went on, the way it happened, and I don't know for detail, that's just my theory, but you can imagine how it's now happened. We've evolved a little bit more smarter, and now we've actually made the dogs our subjects. They are submissive to us. We've bred them actually to do tasks for us. And yeah, so there's always going to be this in our DNA, I say our DNA, but in DNA of humans to like dogs because of this bond that's been made throughout the course of time and evolution. Now, here's my other theory. The reason why some people may have cynophobia and fear of dogs is because they weren't so fortunate to build this bond. Their DNA dictates that no, wolves hunted them down, killed them, done them over. And, you know, because more so in black people than white people, because white people would have been at them parts of the globe at the time, whereas black people wouldn't have been. People of color would have been in a hotter climate and probably would have built a better rapport with cats. You know how the Egyptians really, really valued cats, just like Indians would value cows. And this man's best friend would only be, I think, in more so people from heritage from that era of evolution. But so I'm asking myself, did I have a fear of dogs because it's in my DNA? Is it something like that? Now, obviously, for a large period of time, and I'm not going to say it's massively period of time, but you know, trauma is passed down through DNA to protect you from the world if it's dangerous. And for the longest of time, dogs were used to hunt black people. I know this is a real, like, you know, back to housekeeping, but this is going to affect some people when they hear this. Dogs were used to herd humans of color because dogs are colorblind. So if they see white people, they favor. If they see people of color, they don't. And DNA is not just in humans, it's in dogs too. So when you have a breed of dog that is used to hunt humans of certain color, then they can't help themselves but be racist dogs. And I think because it was an Alsatian, believe it or not, the German Shepherd was a very popular dog used to hunt black people and even used on Jews during the Holocaust. I don't know why, maybe it's because I'm super sensitive, but growing up, I was really afraid of this dog. I wasn't afraid of Any others? But it
I
really
never
freaked me
knew
out.
that. I never knew this. This is like education for me. I knew that they were used to hunt people, but I never knew that they were used in the Holocaust and that they were colorblind.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And then that's
wow.
why I think like a large majority of my friends too, who are also black, say the same thing. I don't know what it is, but we just don't like dogs. Yet you put them in a room full of cats and they're just happy as hell. It's like, yeah, cat to cat. But I'm not going to say that it affects everyone. I'm not going to say that this is set in stone. I'm just, doing a bit of theory here.
Yeah. I do know quite a few people that have a fear of dogs. And there's one guy I went to school with, and he was petrified of dogs. And he would literally cross the road if he saw a dog coming down the same side of the road that he was on. He would cross the road, and it was a massive thing. It was like, and as he got older, he would always kind of be like, oh, I just don't like dogs. Dogs, no, they're annoying. He kind of played it down. It was like they were more of an inconvenience. But he had children, and his children are absolutely petrified of dogs as well. And his children saw him cross the road every time they were with him, and that that a dog came along on the same side, so they then followed in his footsteps and do the same. And if they see a dog at a park, or if the dog comes near them, they are absolutely petrified. They literally think the dog is going to kill them. I thought it's because of the environment thing. They've seen their dad do it, so then they've thought, oh, dogs, if dad doesn't like dogs and dad thinks dogs are bad, they must be bad. So then, but it could be, like you say, the DNA thing. So it's
I
quite,
think, yeah, it could be what
it's
you just said though, like,
it could be
influence and
yes, yeah, because of course, as young children, they're gonna think, well, if he's scared of it, we should be scared of it, because
yeah,
it's planting that seed of fear, the condition of, oh, there's something scary about that animal.
yeah.
um
Monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey see, yeah, I was then going to say that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Do you think like animals like dogs and stuff, they can sense fear in us? So if you're
Mhm.
scared
Yes,
of,
absolutely.
It's a smell. We emit like a smell. So say for example, pheromones are a scent used to attract the opposite partner.
Hmm.
I think animals can smell a scent that emits fear. If you emit fear, it's not just in animals. Like I think, a lot of trained athletes in the sport of fighting can sense fear in an opponent.
Mm.
I feel like it's like a
Dogs
sixth
are
sense.
very dogs have an amazing like sixth sense as well. They will go to the person in the house. They will stay, like, I used to have a friend that would stay round. She was single and she used to stay around a lot, and my dog would always go and stay with her down on the sofa whenever she stayed around. When she wasn't here, he would go elsewhere, but he would always go to her. And I found out that dogs go to the person in the house, and they will kind of give affection to the person in the house that they feel needs it the most. And I think
Mm.
that's really lovely. It's really lovely. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's going off on a different tangent.
No, no, it's the complete opposite of a phobia. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
nurturing.
But mm.
But yeah,
So I think they do
that's
sense the fear. Yeah,
yeah. So
I
when
think
we
they
talk
can
about
sense.
they can
Mm.
sense. Right. So fear of dogs. Now that's just one.